We'd like to welcome head football coach Billy Hickman. We're opening up the floor for questions about our National Signing Day. Coach Hickman, what stands out most about this year's signing class compared to the previous years, both talent and depth?
The biggest thing is the volume. I mean, we've between mid-year signing 17 there and then 49 more yesterday. Um, it's a huge number of people. So that's kind of the world we live in. And as we continue to navigate this new stuff with portal and NIL stuff and all that, there will be huge roster changeovers, I think, pretty regularly. So that was really the thing that stood out most as far as that goes.
And coach, this signing class adds significant numbers across the D line, linebacker, and defensive back groups. How do you see this boosting the depth and competition on defense next season?
Yeah, I'm certainly coming off of last season defensively. We were in a position to try to get as many guys who could come in and be impactful immediately. And I think that this group, we've got that. We've got guys that we signed in this class for just the 2026 class, not even talking about the mid-year guys, who are guys who can play immediately on the back end and up front on the D line. And then certainly there's a couple of linebackers I think that we expect to be in the rotation next year. So defensively, it was very important to us to retool and to build with this class.
Coach, thanks for being here again. What does the coaching staff see as the biggest strengths and potential areas of growth for this incoming defensive class?
Um, Speed, one, and then ability to tackle, two. You know, those are things that we struggled with. And the guys who've been here in the previous classes, they'll grow. They'll grow in that way as we've added to our staff, and then certainly having a ton of people to build that competition and everything. But we wanted to make sure that we were recruiting guys who could run and guys who could tackle. And so we saw a lot of that on tape, and we're very excited about the guys coming in who can do that.
Coach, with 3 quarterbacks and 15 offensive linemen signed, how does this class address your team's biggest offensive needs heading into the 2026 season?
I cannot have enough offensive linemen. I would have 40 on my team if that were reasonable to do. It'd be tough on the travel budget, the preseason camp meal budget, but we cannot have enough offensive line depth. I think that both offensive line and defensive line, the amount of people we could have who are big people for football, it's important for us, and we're going to create competition there. I'm obviously heavily involved with that position day to day, and I want guys who compete and work their butts off to push one another. Personally, I don't care who plays, and so I want a lot of guys to have great depth there. In the past, we have not had enough depth there, and it's hurt our team in a bunch of different ways, whether it was being talented and deep enough, because injuries will happen, or not having enough for scout team as the season wanes on. And so that's something that we don't ever want to go through again. So that number on the offensive line is a big deal. Certainly replacing guys in the quarterback room. We in my 5 years here, we've had one player start every single game in a season, and that was last year. So to replace him is a big deal. And again, same kind of thing. We want to create competition in that room and make sure that we're putting ourselves in position to be successful. Our offense will look different year to year. It just depends on who we have up front. Quarterback, offensive skill doesn't matter. But we want guys who can be successful in our league. So recruiting a bunch of quarterbacks is a big deal.
Can you talk about the mix of experience and potential in this class? Are there any recruits you see making an early impact?
Yes. Yeah. I think that, across the board there could be. And again, I think that speaks to the nature of how college football is going right now, where you have this huge roster turnover every single year. There's hardly anybody that I'm aware of at any level, FBS, FCS, or Division II, who's just going to have 20 starters come back. That's just not where we're at with the landscape of college football right now. So to your question, yes, there will be a number of guys I would expect at every position to come in and have a chance to be impactful. I think we have guys returning at receiver, offensive line, quarterback, and defensive line who I would be surprised to see not contribute a ton. but every other spot we've got openings. we've got potential for competition and potential for newcomers to have an immediate impact.
Coach, exciting to have so many new guys come in. How will the coaching staff and yourself integrate such a large group of new student athletes into spring practices and fall camp, just to ensure cohesion as they get here?
Yeah. Spring practice is obviously a big deal with the larger mid-year class, and so those people were very important so that we have a strong spring. Like if without those numbers, we're not going to have a good productive spring, and so it was important to get those numbers, especially on the defensive side of the football, so we had the numbers that we need to be productive this spring. I think that anymore in college football, and this is probably other sports as well, the coaches that can create a bonds and a culture very, very quickly are the ones who are going to be really successful because of it being very high turnover, to get people to gel quickly and do a great job of establishing this micro culture that exists with this team just for a season or a calendar year in our situation, I think is really important. So we're going to spend a ton of time on that. We do that all spring. I've got to try and find ways to do that in the summer as guys are here before fall camp to make sure that some of those freshmen who haven't graduated yet, who are going to be here, find a way to get integrated into our program and bond quickly with our guys. So that's a huge deal to us, and we're going to spend all spring and summer making sure that our team is as tight as can be when August rolls around.
Coach, moving on to the classroom more specifically, what academic qualities did you look for in this signing class, and how does WNMU support the student athletes off the field?
Yeah, good question. I think academically, first of all, we can find good academic students. I know that the professors, just like we want good athletes, they want good students. And so when they can get academic scholarship, that's good for the school, that's good for us. That helps our dollar stretch farther at Division II, where we try and stack scholarships, whether it's outside stuff, financial aid, academics, athletics, to try and get that bottom line down as far as possible. So when we have good academic students, that only helps us there. Within our athletic department, the support for academics is outstanding. Our administration does a great job helping our kids get into classes, planning around our schedule, supporting them with our study hall stuff and our achievement room, all kinds of help with tutors and communication with professors constantly. So we get a lot of help there as far as academics goes.
Coach, which position group are you most excited about with this class?
Offensive line. I mean, we got 13 fat kids in the 2026 class. So those are my favorite people. They are the best people. And I'm excited about this group coming in. The last time that we signed this many players at that position was in 2022, and we had a winning season. So I don't know if that's why, but here's hoping that correlates.
Coach, noticed that we've got several signees coming from high school programs in the Southwest. Can you just speak a little bit on how relationships in those pipelines influence your recruiting and how that looks this year?
Yeah. We're going to be boots on ground always from El Paso, New Mexico, Arizona, and Southern California. Southern California took a little bit more of a backseat with some of the staff turnover that we had so that we could focus on more of our centrally located spaces in New Mexico, El Paso. Phoenix and all of Tucson, for that matter, are always going to be really important to us because the football there is so good and there's so many kids, and to be honest, they're a little under recruited, and so that's a good productive space for us. The guys that we have recruiting those spots did an outstanding job. We've got two new coaches, Bryce Dempsey and Austin Bortle, who did a great job of coming in and helping us right away. But in New Mexico and El Paso, David Delgado, our defensive line coach, does an awesome job recruiting there, and he has outstanding relationships across the state and throughout El Paso. And then Gavin Lutman, who's our offensive coordinator, did an awesome job recruiting Phoenix. He was a head coach in that area, so he knows people, whether they're players who are coming through who he's worked with or coaches that he's coached against. And our relationships, I think with those two in particular, help us a ton in recruiting those spots.
Coach, how do you balance recruiting for immediate impact versus long-term development with classes of this size?
It's a really good question. I don't know that I know the answer to that. we just want to get the best football players that we can get who fit with who we are and what we're trying to do, right? If guys want to come in and be developed, regardless of whether they're transfers with 1 year left or high school kids who are going to graduate in June, doesn't matter. If they're good football players and they want to compete and they want to get developed, then they have a chance to be successful here. So for us, certainly we want to look for good roster distribution and depth across the board so that we're never running into being short at one position or another. But really, we just want to recruit good football players who are a good fit here.
And coach, looking at the overall roster now after the recruiting period is finished, what are your goals for team identity and performance heading into the Lone Star Conference season?
I think, like I talked about before, making sure that we are gelling coming out of summer as an entire group. There will be approximately 70 new faces of players alone. And so there's a challenge there in making sure that they're a really tight-knit unit. Identity-wise, we want to be tough and physical and play really hard and be extraordinarily prepared. That's going to be important for us always. But this group in particular, again, with having such a huge number of new players, we want to make sure that they're going to gel together and really find their identity as a group, as a team.
Coach, before we ended, do you have any last thoughts?
No, I mentioned some of those coaches. I'll say we've had a lot of coaches here recruiting throughout my time, and this staff did as good a job as I've seen. I stayed around after our season to deal with some of our personnel stuff, whether it's players or coaches, and these guys got out and did a great job. I think our graduate assistants did a better job recruiting than any group I've ever had. Evan Green and Blake Cole did an awesome job in recruiting, and I would probably be remiss to not mention Frankie Ione, who left us for a Division I position, so we're happy for him. But those guys did an awesome job in recruiting. And like I said, Coach Lutman and Coach Delgado, we would not be anywhere close to where we were as successful with this group without them. So I'd like to mention those guys.
I want to thank everybody for coming. There will be refreshments in the lobby.